having a little technical difficulties. Okay, and I need to see. Okay, I'm okay. All right. We have our first meeting, which is our special.
Okay, we're ready. Let me start recording, Mayor.
Okie dokie. Wait. Okay. So we're going to have first our quasi-judicial public hearing. And then from there, when we're done, we'll move into our regular meeting. Okay, everybody? So call to order. Can the clerk please take roll call?
Councilmember Yaffe.
Here, I'm better.
Is physically present. Councilmember Trikochik.
Here.
Councilmember Salver.
Here.
Councilmember Reed.
Here.
Councilmember Leonard.
Here.
Vice Mayor Fuller.
Here.
Mayor Bruder.
Here, if I can get this in right here. Okay.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody.
Gotta stand up with these wires.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay, discussion. Maria, or Alba, do you want to read it?
I can read it. Discussion for the purpose of hearing any public.
We can't hear you, Maria.
Maria, you're muted.
Discussion, just a minute, I'm sorry. Discussion for the purpose of hearing any public comment with respect to a request from CBS Realty Holding LLC for designation of the property located at 1000 Kane Concourse, Bay Harbor Islands, Florida 33154 as Brownfield area pursuant to section 376.80, subsection 2, subsection C, Florida statutes. Encloses a copy of the applicant request and staff report provided by the town planner, Michael Miller. Do you read that or I do? The resolution?
No, we don't.
Okay. Somebody wants to move it?
No, yeah, I have a question. I have a statement afterwards.
Okay.
I'll move it.
Second? Jordan, you're seconded?
Second, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, open for discussion. Josh.
Yeah, I'd like to see the applicant make a few changes to the wording that they have on here before they submit it to us again. This language, actually, I understand most of this stuff is boilerplate, but at the same time, it talks about that they're going to be engaged. One of the bases here is that they're going to be engaging local labor, contractors, consultants, provide the construction materials from Bay Harbor, going ahead doing the furnishings from here, the infrastructure. The fact of the matter is they're not buying that stuff from here. We are not the source of a lot of this stuff. I think really the impact fees is the extent of what we're going to be getting. And the idea that they're going to be arguing that they're entitled to the credit because their construction workers are going to be utilizing their money in our stores up and down Kane Concourse is somewhat disingenuous. So along those lines, I'd like them to revise the language. I'm not against them going ahead and making the application and getting our town support, but I don't want to endorse something that is quite honestly improperly worded or in any way is inaccurate and then put the town's endorsement on it.
So are you asking this to come back?
They can make minor changes to the wording along this line. This is more for discussion on this for here, and it's a resolution, so it's a discussion. So they're coming back anyways, but when they do so, I'd like the language to be accurate. And if they're going to apply for the grant, that's fine, or the tax credit, that's fine. But I don't want them saying that they're doing so because they're buying all these things from Bay Harbor, and that the reason for this is that their people are going to be shopping on Kane Concourse.
I agree. Yes.
Mayor, if I can just clarify, the designation we need to have 2 hearings, so it will come back in April.
Okay, but what Josh is saying, before it comes back so that it will not be denied, the resolution needs to be changed in such a way that it reflects that they're not going to be getting a credit because of their people buying food in our stores. So I don't know who is in charge of the resolution, but please let them know that they will not be getting that portion of the resolution. Needs to be changed before it comes back, or it might not pass.
Well, to be more clear, it's not the resolution that changes, it's just their application, their designation eligibility statement, the language that they gave to us states it. They're using this and they're going to use this for the application to the state. I don't want to have that scenario. I'd like them to be honest. That's all I'm asking.
Okay.
Can I just clarify?
Frank, if we can swearing all the members who are going to be speaking, this is a quasi-judicial hearing.
Yes, thank you. I know Josh was anxious to talk. For all those who are going to testify, if you could virtually raise your hand and swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Brett,
Okay.
You're on mute.
Hi, Isaac.
Yeah, can we ask questions? I mean,
Of course.
I promise to ask truthful questions. First of all, I have a little bit of a problem in that the applicant itself is a limited liability corporation. It's a real estate holding corporation, and the corporate documents show that the manager is the Church by the Sea, which is fine. But I would like to see the agreement, the agreement that is the underlying agreement for the limited liability corporation, to see who the members are. And I think that's kind of important because that represents who the applicant is. And I'm struggling a little bit with the timeline here, because this property was acquired sometime, I believe, in 2016 or 2017. Fast forward, there was demolition that went on for several months. And now the applicant is in the middle of construction in earnest. I mean, there are pilings there. There's a tremendous amount of activity going on in there. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, seemingly, there's an application for this brownfield designation. And I got to presume that sometime in 2016, prior to the applicant acquiring this property, that there was a fair amount of environmental studies that were done. They have to be done, geological studies, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just kind of uncomfortable with the lack of transparency, of this entire process, because I know that, you might want to mark your calendars, because I'm going to quote, Fran Newhut. Fran Newhut basically, month after month after month, came to us and said, hey, look, these folks basically did an end run around the council regarding their site development plans, their site plans. They dealt with the Planning and Zoning Board fine. They followed all our rules and procedures. And I'm not implying in any way that they did anything inappropriate. They did everything appropriate according to our, rules and regulations. But, it's just, I find it odd that now they're appealing to the council, for this designation, which is obviously going to benefit them monetarily and could potentially be a detriment to our town by way of tax credits and other things. And I just, between my feeling that this is a private corporation, an LLC that's applying for this, and the fact that they really never came before the council in a public meeting to have approval for the overall site plan, I'm not that comfortable with what's going on. And Frank, if you correct me if I'm wrong on any of my counts here, but I feel like the town might be getting shortchanged here.
So I have a question for you, Isaac. So basically, do you remember I just want to clarify we invited them, if you recall, to come before us, and that never came to fruition. But what you're saying is you're not comfortable because we don't know who the LLC is and the players in the LLC.
Well, you know, I'm not comfortable with the fact that they've been under construction for almost a year now, and they're coming now that they're like, you know, they're coming out of the ground and they're saying, oh, you know what, we want a special designation as a brownfield. Just for frame of reference, a brownfield is typical, you know, brownfield designation is typically used in a place where nobody wants to develop. It's like an empty, you know, an empty lot or several blocks or a block of land where nobody really wants to develop. And they say, okay, hey, look, we're going to do you a favor, town. We're going to come in and we are going to do deep cleaning from an environmental perspective and make that property more valuable to the town. Okay.
Can I say a word?
Well,
yes.
Let me just finish, Leonard.
Sure.
Let me finish, Leonard.
1 second, Jordan.
All right, Salver.
Anyway, you know, it's just, you know, so because I, you know, the experience that I have with brownfield designations is the Florida League of Cities, you know, their beautiful building that they built in Tallahassee was built on a brownfield. But they had that designation when they acquired the property and they did the environmental before they put a shovel into the ground. They you know, that property was designated happily and openly by the city of Tallahassee. And they said, yeah, come in, you know, we'll cooperate any way we can so you can develop this polluted field and clean it up and make it nice. Well, that's not happening here. You know, that, you know, the property that is being built on is incredibly valuable, expensive property that anybody would come in. Okay, you know, there were tanks, there's pollution or whatever it was. You know what? You bought it, fix it, and build. That's my conclusion, basically.
Okay, Jordan.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Let me just start by saying that brownfields is something that I would consider my wheelhouse, something that I have a lot of experience handling in government. In fact, actually, about 15 years ago, I actually sat on the county's brownfield committee as a representative of Miami-Dade County. That being said, the town of Bay Harbor Islands has 3 brownfields currently within our municipality. Ironically, the other 2 are owned by the town. So the gas station on the Causeway Island is technically a brownfield. The tanks behind the town government center is also a brownfield. And of course, this parcel is a brownfield. Whether or not we designate it or not, it is a brownfield. And it's a brownfield because it had the Cadillac dealership and they did oil changes and did work on cars. And of course, there must be chemicals and pollutants that seeped into the ground. The benefit to the town is immense because they agreed to remediate those issues. By designating this parcel a brownfield, all they're doing is they're accessing money at the state level. And again, don't quote me on this, but last time I checked, there was a grant money for testing and loan money for remediation. So all we're doing is just rubber stamping their process for them to remediate the property. So in other words, they're taking a property that clearly has pollutants and they're making it better, which is good for the community. It's sustainable. I mean, that's what we want. We want them to fix the property. So, I mean, I'm supportive of it. I strongly support this. I agree with Josh, obviously. You know, we don't want somebody to lie on an application. I agree with that. But that being said, I'm going to vote for it. I'll support it.
So I have a couple questions. First of all, they're saying they're cleaning it up, but how do we know? They're already pulling pilings and they should have cleaned up that land prior to the starting of the building. So how do we know they actually cleaned it up? Who oversees that?
Mayor, we do have a representative, the attorney.
Okay, but 1 second. I want to ask Frank, my attorney. They can chill for a second. Frank.
So
I'm on a roll today.
So,
okay, Frank.
So all the work that is being done is pursuant to a permit, and therefore our building department reviews all the permits and work done and pursuant to those permits.
So basically, they had to do it no matter what.
They have to do the work that's in their permits. This is from what I've read and seen. They've encountered some more issues than they initially thought, is what they've represented, and I'll let the attorney speak for the client rather than me speaking for them.
So now, what I want to know is, they, like Isaac said, why are they coming now? Why didn't they come before they started building?
Sure, and that's a question for Mr. Brummett.
Okay, Mr. Brummett, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Brett Brummett. I'm with the Goldstein Environmental Law Firm located at 2100 Ponce de Leon Boulevard in Coral Gables. We represent the applicant CBS Realty Holding LLC. So thank you all for your time this evening considering this request and helping facilitate the cleanup of the property and redevelopment. I'd like to address all of your questions. I'll start with Mayor Bruder's question first. Exactly how, or I'll start with the timing question because that came up twice. So the Brownfield Redevelopment Program is designed to help mitigate environmental risk. It's also designed to help local governments encourage the voluntary cleanup of land, where by a developer who's interested in redeveloping that property played no role in causing or exacerbating that contamination. So while timing is a concern, in this case, it's oftentimes a business decision of whether it's worth to go the brownfield designation route or clean up the property without the added benefits provided by the state. And here we initially submitted the brownfield designation request back in October. So work had already been done at that point. And then there are a lot of moving parts that go into play first on the business side prior to bringing it to the local government to make this request. So there are costs that would be eligible for the voluntary cleanup tax credit provided by the state that were incurred in the year 2020, as well as costs that will be incurred, that are being incurred now and will continue to be incurred in the year 2021 that would be eligible for a tax credit applied for at the end of the year. And as far as who oversees the cleanup of the property in Miami-Dade County, Miami-Dade County Department of Regulatory and Economic Resources, through their Division of Environmental Resources Management, or DERM, they oversee all of the cleanup. As Florida Department of Environmental Protection runs typically the brownfield program, but they've delegated their authority to Miami-Dade County. So that's the benefit of the program, is it is overseen by local environmental professionals, local administrators, and they sort of put it on an expedited track where all submittals go through DERM. DERM must approve them first. In this case, much work has been done. The petroleum impacts have already been addressed. And now the only remaining impacts are some areas of soil impacted by arsenic above a commercial cleanup target, soil cleanup target levels for commercial use. And that's typical on barrier islands in Miami-Dade County. It's a naturally occurring condition. And in this case, Miami-Dade County approved a soil management plan so the applicant properly manage any impacted soil to keep nearby residents, business owners, and workers on the property safe. It's also approved a health and safety plan with an air monitoring plan, and they will continue to oversee this work until the site is brought to closure. And some of the remaining work will be to encapsulate any of the remaining contamination beneath an engineering control.
So you're representing a group, and I think Isaac asked, who is that group? Who are the people who you're representing?
Yes, so we represent CBS Realty Holding LLC, is affiliated with Church by the Sea.
And the names of the people?
As far as going further into the corporate structure, I can't answer that question right now, but I believe representatives from the Church by the Sea are available as members of the public, and they may be able to answer that question. Okay. Mr. Jeffrey Hecht, I believe, is available.
Okay. Okay. Before we ask Jeffrey to join us, Elizabeth,
Sorry, I had to unmute. So I'd like to direct this question to Frank. You know, Isaac just brought something up, and he said that, you know, there could be negative impacts to the town if we approve this. Are you aware of, and what are those negative impacts?
I'm not sure of a negative impact for the town on this. Quite honestly, you're getting a property that's cleaning up its contaminants, which benefits the property, benefits the town overall and the associated and adjacent property owners. So I'm not sure what it is. It's interesting insofar as, you know, the statute, the way it's set up, even in an instance where the individual property owner wishes to commence this work on their private property, it still requires the town's approval so that the state knows that it's sanctioned by the municipality that oversees it. But for all intents and purposes, it almost should be exclusive to areas in which the town wants to impose a brownfield on private property. So it's just, to answer your question succinctly as I can, I don't see that there is a disadvantage for the town or any adverse impact to the town by permitting this.
Let me just respond to the question, since we're talking about what I had said. What I had in mind, and from what I read outside of the package, was that there are certain tax credits that are available to the applicants, which is fine. But as long as I'm concerned that those tax credits might affect the income for the town. So if there's, there are tax credits that are available, towards real estate taxes or other, types of tax benefits that could ultimately trickle down and affect our operations, like on the local level. Look, I support them getting, state and federal funds for this cleanup. I mean, undoubtedly. But when it comes, to tax credits, or when it comes to reduction of real estate taxes, potentially, or something like that, that's when I begin to get nervous, and I'm here to protect the town's assets. And another thing that was interesting to me was that the fact that this is a for-profit LLC that owns this large parcel of land, and I'm presuming, representations have been made that this is the church by the sea, and it's really, in my interpretation, it doesn't look like it's the church by the sea. It looks like a privately held LLC. And I think the town has the right to know, if we're going to grant, we're going to pass this resolution, I think the town has the right to know who the members are of the LLC. So, and that's what I was talking about regarding, I was concerned about the tax credits and having an effect on a local level.
Well, thank you. No, thank you for clarifying that, Isaac. I mean, theoretically, it's been a while since I've done taxes, and you do them currently. But I mean, theoretically, if it's held, I'm sorry, there's such an echo. If it's even partially held by a nonprofit, there could potentially be tax ramifications regardless, depending on how they structure their organization, correct?
I can't answer that off the top of my head. Usually, because what I'm used to seeing is if a 501c3 is the is the owner, right, is the actual owner, the fee holder of the property, then they can apply for for tax benefits and tax-free status. But if it's a private corporation, I think it gets a lot more complicated, and I don't know those regulations off the top of my head, Elizabeth.
This is a private corporation. But this is a private corporation. This is not a nonprofit corporation, correct? Brett?
Right, but if it's majorly held by a nonprofit, there could be tax ramifications regardless.
You got Bob.
Right. Isaac, I wanted to clarify something that you said, because if if the property receives a brownfield designation, then whatever credits are due come about. I mean, it's automatic, isn't it? I mean, you're concerned about ad valorem property tax credits, which would affect the revenue flowing to the town, but you can't segregate one credit from another, can you, or prevent them from getting an ad valorem tax credit while they may be getting other benefit from the brownfield designation?
I don't know that.
Okay, I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't have enough information to be able to answer that, Bob.
Okay, Stephanie, one thing I want to add in. I mean, Isaac, I understand the reasoning you have for trying to understand who the other members of the LLC, but I don't necessarily think that's really our business at this point. What we're looking at here is whether or not we want to move for this resolution later on. This is the first of two meetings, but the tax implications for the LLC and whether or not they're properly or improperly telling the county that they are not for profit, that's up to them in the county and maybe our own investigation separately. It's separate from this designation. And what we're supposed to look at today is just this. So I'd like us rather to focus on specifically, without trying to dig into the LLC members, because I don't want to open up that Pandora's box. I wanted to see whether or not we are in agreement or disagreement as far as moving forward with this resolution.
I understand that, but I think Isaac has a point. They're coming to us. We'd like to know who's coming before us. I don't think that's an unreasonable.
Well, the legal designation is something that, I mean, Isaac just himself said that he's not sure legally how that would work as far as the taxation. So even if they tell us the people, which I don't think they're required to do at this point, that's the purpose of the LLC. Even if they were to tell us, it doesn't change the fact of whether or not we're for or against this. This is just simply whether or not we think the application as stated, and I don't think it's, I don't like it as it's stated the way, because until they change the wording, but the application itself is what we're looking at, not who the members are.
Josh, in my experience, all applications for variances and all, most packages that are delivered to the building department for things like this are accompanied by the articles of incorporation and, or in this case, articles of organization and, some type of, organizational chart where it tells the town who has an economic interest in this entity. I mean, there's no situation that comes to mind where that type of information was not shared with the town as part of the application.
Anybody? Yes.
May I speak to these questions? I think I'm able to clear up some of these issues. The LLC is a disregarded entity. It's the sole member LLC. Church by the Sea, Inc. is the sole member of the LLC in this case. And that's verifiable through Secretary of State, Florida Secretary of State documentation. And with respect to the tax credits themselves, it's the tax credits come in the form of a corporate income tax credit from the state. And you're only eligible to access those tax credits if you enter into a brownfield site rehabilitation agreement with Miami-Dade County. So that is a separate process. So this is just that first step in the ultimate process to continue to clean up under the protections of that brownfield site rehabilitation agreement, or a BSRA for short, as well as access those tax credits. So if this designation is approved, all that does, it does not have any impact on the town aside from having this brownfield area located within the town limits. There's also a provision of the statute that allows you to name the designated brownfield area anything, so you don't need to have that brownfield area name on it when ultimately the property will be cleaned up. It'll be cleaner than it was before. So once if the designation is approved and the applicant enters into that brownfield site rehabilitation agreement with Miami-Dade County, all future work will be between all future remediation work will be between the applicant and the county. And then, I'm sorry, I lost my lights, and then with the actual tax credit process, that's done through an annual application with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. So once they'll submit their annual costs incurred that year, FDEP will review those costs and ensure that they were all actually incurred and they were all for eligible purposes, say assessment and actual remediation, And if they are approved, FDEP will issue that tax credit to the applicant. And then what that applicant can do, if they don't have a Florida corporate income tax liability, they can then sell that on the secondary market to an entity that does have a tax liability. So ultimately that money comes back in the form of cash that can be reinvested back into the project itself.
Madam Mayor, can I amend I second the motion. I'd like to amend it to concur with what Josh mentioned as far as just cleaning up that verbiage. So if the person who made the motion would approve that also, I'd like to just do that so we can, have whoever wants to speak on the matter, and then we could just call the question.
Okay. Agreed.
I just want to respond to one thing that Brett said. Brett, I checked Sunbiz prior to the meeting, like 10 minutes before the meeting. And Sunbiz shows that the Church by the Sea is listed as the manager, not the member.
Okay. So first of all, Josh, are you going to amend your?
I didn't make the motion.
Who made the motion? Elizabeth.
Yeah. She.
You're going to amend
it.
Okay.
I
and
second
Jordan, you second it. Okay.
There you
Let's
go.
hear from the participant. Alba, is there anybody who would like to speak?
Yes, we do have 2 residents.
Okay. Who's the first one?
Mrs. Newhart.
Ms. Newhart, please state your name and address for the record.
Frances Newhart, 9920 West Broadview Drive. Although the developer owner of Church by the Sea this evening is asking for the approval at a council public hearing, why do they appear to be completely avoiding real estate taxes on these properties while asking for government funding? Why did the developer owner Church by the Sea wait so long, plus minus 5 years, before requesting funding for a brownfield site, especially when they did not do any soil testing before purchasing June 1st, 2016, the existing Ocean Cadillac car dealership and service with underground tanks and poisonous elements, arsenic, cadmium, chromium, and lead in the soil? Again, why did they take so long before receiving their 1/7/2020 demolition permit without a demolition bond, section 5.3.1, and a 6/29/2020 building permit, which supposedly had expired on 11/25/2019? Therefore, previous to the developer owner of Church by the Sea applying for funding for this brownfield site, Florida Statute 376.782C, was the church allegedly creating a public health and environmental hazards? Is Bay Harbor government encouraging economic and tax incentives to facilitate and promote rehabilitating the so-called multi-millionaire tax-exempt church brownfield area? Will this church brownfield site rehabilitation and development improve the overall health of our community and quality of life? Has Bay Harbor Island government taken responsibility for rehabilitation and redevelopment of this brownstone area? Are they including residents and businesses operating within the brownfield area? And how is this going to create local employment opportunities, community safety, and environmental justice? Instead, this particular tax-exempt multi-millionaire church has been disrupting our Southeast Alley with trucks making their business deliveries, taking over our municipal right-of-ways and parking spaces, and possibly without county permission, removing our Miami-Dade bus stop in front of their property. Why hasn't our Bay Harbor government taken responsibility for rehabilitation and redevelopment when the church is taking over our East Bay Harbor Drive municipal parking meters, municipal land, without permission or reimbursements, and avoiding paying real estate taxes? All this Bay Harbor government has gotten thus far from this multi-millionaire tax-exempt church has been noxious and poisonous gases being released.
Thank you, Ms. Newhart. Thank you so much.
Can I just finish one sentence? I have one sentence. And all I'm saying is this is getting into the lungs of our town residents. and their children's public health, safety, and general welfare, and including our public and private losses, and the possibility of our small town going bankrupt. Thank you, Isaac.
Okay. Next.
Ms. Kennedy.
Ms. Kennedy, please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, yes, good evening. My name is Kathleen Kennedy. I'm at 9180 West Bay Harbor Drive, and I'm watching the body language of all of you. Kudos to Isaac Salva. Kudos to Stephanie Bruder. And Josh, I'm very surprised at you. I like transparency. And yes, we should know who we're dealing with in our town. That's the problem. Everything is secret, secret, secret. I'm the one that called Durham, along with some people on the Kane Concourse. Okay, I am the one. I take responsibility. And you can sue me all you want, because I was smelling that stuff every time I walked around there. Okay, it was nasty. When you have cars there for years and years and years and oil soaking into the ground, what does that tell you? It's a no-brainer. So I blame all of this on Ron Watson, our previous manager, because many times we all asked for a public meeting in front of the citizens to talk about what is your plan for this town. And we never, ever got that public meeting. And Isaac hit it on the nail tonight. This was Ron Watson's problem. He made that deal with whoever, but I'm watching the body language. It speaks volumes. But let me tell you something. I am all for what they're doing. I like what they do. I like them helping the homeless. I like them helping the addicts. I'm all for that. But they're doing things, and I see it every day, that I don't think they're getting permission from our town or our council. And that's what I don't like. There's some people in condos that have maids. They couldn't get off the bus stop the other day because they had blocked the whole street. They didn't know where the bus was going to stop and how they had to walk. I mean, I know this is not right, but the smell of that place over there, Jordan, I don't know how, you walk your dog, I think. I don't know how you can walk there and then have that beautiful dog smelling that crap there for months like I have. So kudos to Isaac. Kudos to you, Stephanie, for asking the tough questions. And this lawyer here, thank God Amy's not here because she's full of it. But
okay. Thank you, Ms. Kennedy.
This guy, Brett, is not telling you the whole story. We had to go back. And, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Brett.
By the way, thanks for the comment about the dog.
Okay. Well, I think, Brett, the question is what Isaac said is that it's not I think by the next meeting, we would like a listing of who is the organization of the corporation would be very helpful. Is that possible?
It is. And I'd like to also clarify that it is a managing member. Church by the Sea, Inc. is the managing member of the LLC. We'll be happy to provide the documentation to show that relationship there. And we're also happy to revise our actual request eligibility statement. That language there about spending money at local businesses, that's just meant to be a way to show that the actual redevelopment work will help result in economic productivity in addition to the actual completed redevelopment, bringing in those retail bays on the first floor and people shopping in the area. So we're happy to revise that language to remove that sentence from the eligibility statement.
And can you please do me a favor and tomorrow send our town manager so she can distribute to us who owns the corporation, the LLC, and who are the acting members? We'd appreciate it.
Certainly.
Okay, guys.
Mayor, we have one more resident.
Okay. That's fine.
Linda Zilber.
Linda, please unmute yourself and state your name and address for the record.
Linda Zilber, 1231 95th Street, Bay Harbor Islands. I think the bottom line here is that they get goodies and money. And in turn, as all of you have said, we will have a cleaner field and a cleaner place. So all of you are correct, but the bottom line is they get the goodies. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so what is the pleasure of the council? Are we going to
call
pass
the question?
All right, Alba, call the question, please.
Can you restate? Can we restate the motion, because there was an amendment from the beginning, and it's already been 48 minutes into it.
Okay. Elizabeth, please state the motion again with the changes, and then Jordan will second it.
Well, I think Josh had laid them out.
Before you continue, Councilmember Tricoche, Frank, do we need a motion for this? Because this is a resolution, and the resolution will formally be adopted in the second hearing.
It still has to pass like a ordinance.
Like an ordinance? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, and I think the record would better be reflected as it passing at the first hearing. Brett, do you disagree in any way?
I do not, no.
Okay, so why don't we have Josh state what the changes are going to be?
Well, I can't. I mean, they're the one. I'm not going to give them their language, their application. They have to make the application language. My instruction would be that they revise the application language to be accurate and not include essentially false promises of purchasing items from Bay Harbor businesses, from Bay Harbor residents, and engaging for employment Bay Harbor residents, getting their materials from Bay Harbor, essentially quarries, which don't exist. I mean, this is boilerplate language, and I understand that they've used this time and time again, but I'm not going to support something. At least this today is one thing, but for the second time, I wouldn't support it if it still has language that talks about things that are not true. So I have no problem voting today as long as it is a promise that by the time we see it the second time, it will be accurate. But I'm going to give you that same warning that if you don't make the correct revisions, I'm going to reject it the next time, and I have a feeling a lot of the other members of the council will, and you start back from stage one.
Understood, Brett?
Understood. Very clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Alba.
Councilmember Yaffe?
Since it's first reading, 4.
Councilmember Tricoche?
4.
Councilmember Salver?
4.
Councilmember Reed?
4.
Councilmember Leonard?
4.
Vice Mayor Fuller?
4.
Mayor Bruger?
4.
It's unanimous.
Brett, but you do understand if it doesn't come back corrected, it will probably, a lot of us will not vote for it. And I'd also like to see who the members are of the LLC. Okay, thank you for your time.
And Brett, I'm more than happy to be of service to work with you on that, to see and help with any items that may not be applicable to the town. So if you want to send it to me prior to sending it to the clerk, I'm happy to work with you on that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
We're going to close this meeting.
One more item.
What?
Don't we have to read number 2? We have to read the next item.
Okay.
Oh, that's right. You have to read it. That's right.
Okay. Announcement of the second public hearing for April 14th, 2021 at 6 p.m. to consider the request for brownfield area designation for the property located at 1000 King Concourse.
Okay. So we are going to, what?
I'm just wondering, actually, I didn't look at the schedule. That's our next council meeting, correct?
Yes. Correct.
Yeah, I think this has to be, we will have at least one new member on the council. I think this has to go on afterwards because you won't be, you have the swearing in and everything else afterwards.
So let's say 6:30.
Well, it has to be after the, you have to do the organizational and then.
We'll do the organizational and right after.
And then you can do this afterwards, exactly.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to close out this meeting and we will start in a couple minutes our regular council meeting. Thank you so much, Brett, for your participation.
Thank you all. Thank you all for your consideration.
Thanks.
Have a great night.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.